Hi everybody, my name is Liz Hathway and this is my astrological look at the week ahead. It's the week starting 23rd of April and let's dip straight in with Tuesday when we have Mars sextile Jupiter. Jupiter is in Scorpio at the moment, retrograde. It's very fond of Mars, it's in Mars's sign. Mars is in Capricorn, the sign it's exalted in. So there's a lot of power and clout in this sextile. Although with Jupiter retrograde, it might be still work that needs to be done behind the scenes. There's still grafting. The results might not be immediately obvious. So in that respect, even though, as always with the sextile, there's opportunities, it might not be the best option that we want, but it's certainly an option. There are options here. And it might as well, with Mars still sandwiched between Saturn and Pluto just, it might just be an opportunity that gets us out of a tight corner in some way. There's movement forward this week. We see on Tuesday as well Venus moving into Gemini. If Venus represents what we're passionate about, what our heart desires, what we love, then Venus in Gemini is going to give us an opportunity to communicate and talk about things that we are passionate about, to share our ideas on some level. It's a love of communication. It's a love of exchange. It's also about trade, Mercury. So this is good for business in certain respects. Certainly, you know, being related to women and women's affairs. You know, these might be things that are suddenly coming much more into the news. Whereas Venus in Taurus is much more homey in a way. She's much more about the good things of life, food and congeniality. Venus in Gemini is much busier. It's a busy bee, sort of, you know, flitting from here and there. Great for networking and things like that. On Wednesday, we have the final Mercury-Saturn square. I say final because these two planets were first square on the 11th of March in 8 of the cardinals, Mercury in Aries, Saturn in Capricorn. Then on the 23rd of March, Mercury went retrograde. And on the 4th and 5th of April, we had that really tense Mercury square Mars and then Mercury square Saturn around the 10 degrees of the cardinals. So now we're getting, again, in 8 degrees of the cardinals, we're having this final Mercury-Saturn square. Mercury-Saturn square can be about mental blocks. I mean, whereas Mercury in Aries is the bright spark, the great idea, if you like, you know, the mad professor who has some wild scheme, and it's incredibly creative, but somehow it has to go through the channels, and this is Saturn is the channels, that things have to go through the reality checks, you know, the drawing board, the fine details, which Mercury in Aries can really rail against in a way. You know, it's the self-discipline, the mental discipline, but also mental blocks, you know, it's like hitting a hard place. But it's also about aggressive confrontation, and we've certainly seen a lot of that in the collective in the last few months. But we could also say it could be the death of a scientist. I'm thinking of Stephen Hawking, who was himself a Capricorn. So this square has manifested in many ways. It's also, you know, Mars has been prominent as well lately. So it's also about verbal military confrontations, law and order, policing and things like that. So this Mercury square has been certainly, you know, really played through in the collective. Unfortunately, we have this final square on Wednesday, so ideas can move forward. We've got Venus in Gemini, wants to get things out there. And on Thursday, we finally get Mars moving out of his besiegement, moving out of this rock and a hard place where he's been, you know, between Saturn on the one hand and Pluto on the other. We get suddenly, or finally, not suddenly, we get Mars conjunct Pluto on Thursday. Although Pluto is now retrograde, it's stationing today on Monday. So there's always a sort of feeling with Pluto stationary that it's a tense moment. Something's being reined in. It's like almost, you know, putting your feet down and pulling back. You know, it's kind of dangerous. There's potentiality there, but as I say, certainly the collective, you know, it can bring devastating things into effect. So Mars Pluto anyway, final conjunction on Thursday. Good news, we're moving forward and we're moving beyond that. But today is like a bit of a birth canal, you know, Pluto stationary, retrograde, and then Thursday, Mars conjunct Pluto. So what are we birthing, you know, what are we bringing into the world? Interesting time to ponder that. Friday, we have Mercury trine the node. Again, it gives this sense of, you know, Venus in Gemini, Mercury finally moving beyond Saturn, Mercury in Aries, this creative burst. You know, Mercury in Aries is incredibly aware of what the trends are, you know, what's needed. It's incredibly intuitive. So, you know, Mercury trine the node on Saturday, that's a great, you know, uplift. And it's followed by the Sun-Saturn trine on Sunday. Sun is in Taurus now. It's about the groundwork. It's about the fundament. Taurus likes to build things. It's got, you know, the staying power to actually, you know, make things happen and see results. And the Sun trine Saturn, it talks a lot of, you know, the self-discipline, the patience as well. You know, the actual patience sometimes that you need to bring things, to birth things in the world. So a great week, I think, in many ways this week. We're moving forward. We're coming out of, like I say, this position of being sandwiched in a tight corner. So, yeah, great to see things moving forward this week. And I wish you a very productive week. And thank you so much for listening. Bye.